Good afternoon. Wow. So I have wanted to do a live stream with, somebody else for a long time. And I can see right now that Rumble isn't going to be on for today. So if you're going to be over there, I'm sorry. Messed that one up. Don't know how. We should be live on X and we should be live on YouTube. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to get to a situation where there's been a lot of talk about the National Association of Realtors settlement agreement. And pardon me while I look around at all the stuff that's supposed to be happening that isn't. Let me see one thing over here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So I was looking at that. Anyway, so there's been a whole lot of talk about the settlement, and not many people know what it's about. Not many people are real excited about it if you're a real estate agent. And it's just kind of frustrating. But we don't really have any control over the situation. We're not the people they talk to. We're not the lawyers that they talk to. And so, it doesn't matter what we think in some ways. It's not going to change anything. But what I wanted to do is kind of break this whole thing down for you so that you had some idea like, hey, this is what's actually going on. So that's what I've got. Now, so far I've got my guest isn't in the thing, so I don't have his camera. So that's not good. And I've got nothing up in my list. So, it's starting off maybe the best I've ever started off a stream before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and check and see what's up with my people. And we'll get to it. And I don't know. It's so awesome to try stuff that anyway. So now I'm frantically going on the back end and trying to figure out this camera bungle. Oh yeah. So it's weird. It's so weird. Like Austin and I practiced this Wednesday. It's like, hey, let's do this so that it works. And so then we get to a situation where now it's like, no, nothing's working. Just kind of the way things are. I'm okay with it. I need to check something since it's going so well. So I know that's working. Okay. So we'll just figure out what's going on with the YouTube here and with the camera and hit the right buttons. Now it's all messed up. So anyway, I think I might just get started in a weird way. Why? I guess, like, as an agent, you get to this situation where you're used to doing your business. I've been doing this for a long time, and what I saw in the business, obviously there should have been some changes, but I never thought about it in the sense of a class action / DOJ suit a settlement was going to cause the problems. And so that's the part that was weird. And then I thought that, like, when the case was settled, I thought that it would be, it would be equitable. They would have asked our opinion. It didn't happen. And it's not, I get it. I'm a small fish in a very big pond. I didn't like the way it went down. We had a president of NAR just like quit all of a sudden right before the thing. I didn't like that, and I don't like any of the other stuff that goes along with it because there's a lot of misinformation. All these articles are written by people that aren't in real estate, don't have any idea what's going on, and it's like you're not helping the situation. So that's where I'm at. I didn't particularly like it. Now, so how does it work out now? So 5 minutes in, I just wanted to go out. So Austin is in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're friends on Twitter, and he had a different view of things. Okay. But we always kind of ended up in the same place at the end. And so it was weird. And so just in talking to him, I thought, because he sees things differently than I do, not in a bad way or anything, I thought it would be nice for somebody else to explain things the way they see it. And I'll jump in every once in a while and see the way I see it. And then we'll kind of just, we're not going to come to a consensus on everything, but hopefully in going through the thoughts, you can get some idea about what we're thinking and how it would affect a client at this time. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Austin. Here we go. Austin.
Hey, what's up, man?
Man, what a bungle of the opening. I imagine if
always something. I'm telling you.
I imagine if people were really excited, they're really depressed right now. But anyway, I do want a couple caveats with Austin now. So he's in Tennessee. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. There's believe it or not, there's weird local differences in real estate. One of them, for instance, at least for me, buyer pays title. I know in Minnesota, the seller pays a title. It's a weird deal. It's based on customs and just hundreds of years of doing the real estate business. So we may not be, we may have differences based on that. And the other thing is, just to be totally fair, I did put together an outline because I can ramble about any number of things, and I'm trying to stay focused in my old age. So those two things are true. And then, so I just want to get started, Austin. Just to let you know, I did pull up the NAR agreement, and I can put it on the screen. So, or like the frequently asked questions.
Perfect. Okay.
I thought that'd be fun because I know that if you haven't reviewed them, you know an awful lot about them just for not reviewing them.
I may have read it 3 or 4.
Okay, good. It's been very difficult for me to understand what people say, like from leadership of NAR, okay, and then what the difference is in the agreement. And it's like, are these people reading what they're saying? Like, how do they come up with these things based on what is written? So it's a very fascinating thing to me, and we're going to do that. But first, I wanted to start off with just who are you, Austin? Where do you come from? How do you fit into this whole agreement with the settlement with NAR?
Yeah, absolutely. So lived in Phoenix, Arizona most of my life. I moved to Nashville based on a dart throw, actually, in January of 2019. So I've been out here ever since. Got my real estate broker license in 2021. I worked for some really small real estate shops, some really, really large real estate shops. I've gotten to see a lot of different angles and how this industry works from different levels. So yeah, hanging out Middle Tennessee, about 30 minutes outside of Nashville. Married recently in October, got 4 kids. So learning 4 kids and life and adjusting to the marriage and real estate and all these changes. So what do you think? What drew you to this settlement? Like it was like a moth to a flame for you. I know it's a passion, and I'm worried that, by the way, tomorrow's the settlement drop dead date. So I mean, that's when things go, the Brave New World situation. But what was it that just got you so interested in this particular settlement? Seeing all of the inner workings of the real estate industry, especially at one of the larger brokerages that I worked at, I think just really opened my eyes to all of the different ways and how this industry could be better. So the changes were loosely talked about in all of the years. I believe the settlement or the initial lawsuit was sometime in 2017. So there was always just small little rumblings of it, chatting about it. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago where things really started feeling real.
it was time to kind of dive in there and figure out how to make the industry better, in my opinion.
And so one of the things I've struggled with the settlement is what has been alleged doesn't occur in my environment. And what I mean by that is, like, I am my own broker. There are no other people around me. So there's never been the excuse of, well, my broker said this has to be done this way because I'm the broker. I don't need that as a caveat to my clients. My whole business has been kind of set around, I believe, client-centric things. And I don't know, I've always felt there's a lot of just scum in the real estate business, like real scum. Learn to get rich fast, fix and flip houses that are just disasters and pass them on to somebody else. Yeah. Just some really, and by the way, you're going to make $1 million doing it. You really hurt people. It's really bad. And so those things I never did like. And I always started my brokerage with the desire to like work with people and then show them where you could really get ripped off. And the reason why, and it's probably the worst sales technique ever, but I don't want my clients getting ripped off. And I want them to know, like, hey, This is one spot here. Let's just use one for fun. An appraisal, not appraisal, a property, I don't know, the word escapes me, but like comps, running comps.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's say someone's going to buy a house. Okay. I'll tell you what, I bet you I can find any number for that house if I wanted to.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's not right. Okay. It's terrible, but you can do it. And that's one spot where I mean, if you're picking comps 2 miles away from the house in a very urban area to justify your numbers to your clients, I mean, that to me is absolutely just disgusting. Okay. And that's just one of the many things that people do or can do to just be not good real estate agents, not good people. And I never wanted anything to do with that. So,
side question for you.
Yeah.
I know you're a broker owner. Do you have any agents underneath you you're on coach?
Are you there? Okay, good. I'm sorry. I saw something freeze real quick, but yeah, they were on their own. If they had any questions, they would come and talk to me. My goal has never been to run the brokerage of 100 different agents, because to me, that's like herding cats. And if what I think about you is true, you've seen the level of crazy that some agents are. 100%. And, God, I just want to help people buy houses and sell houses. I do not want to deal with weird stuff. Like I'm not a good psychologist. I cannot fix these people's problems. Right. I mean, so I always kept it to myself. Now, if I ever grew, which it's just not my thing, they would be people that I worked with closely. It would not be 7 steps removed. Like you're in a deal right now where you've got like, what did you say, 400 agents or something?
We have 400 agents at my brokerage. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's like, no, never. So
I feel this. I feel like real estate should be local. You should have
100%.
Where you can manage closely, really train, coach, educate. Once you start getting into that 150 plus, it gets very out of hand very quickly.
And to me, it's been like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, I'm trying to help people buy homes and sell homes. I'm not trying to get the biggest brokerage in St. Louis. Like that's not my goal. I mean, I don't want to slam anybody, but there are certain brokerages that their whole real meaning is it's a huge, you just bring all these people in. Okay. And then like they do one transaction and you don't care because they're paying either a fee or some sort of weird thing. And it's hurtful to the darn agent even, the whole thing I just despise. So that's why I do it the way I do. Okay. But I'm not, it's fascinating as I see stuff online. I feel like I have an open enough mind to just be like, well, it's possible. And that's, I think, where you've come in is, we were talking about, to me, something that you can get in the weeds on is agency. Okay. And I was explaining to you how agency in Missouri is defined like a certain way. Okay. And at the end of the day, you have some agency agreement with someone, but it's not necessarily it's definitely not a buyer's agency agreement. And it can end up being a transaction brokerage situation where you're not representing the person, but it all flows down from agency. And at least you're able, like, unlike some people we say on Twitter, you're at least able to see like, oh, okay, I see how you are defining it in this space. And this does flow into transaction brokerage, which is fine, which was good. So I don't want to get too, we can talk forever, and we will in the future. But I wanted to go over one of the questions, and this is, by the way, everyone, it's not like a gotcha moment. I'm not here to just wait for something for Austin to say and just really stab him in the back right when he says something else. I appreciate him coming on to talk about this stuff. So what is the point of seller offering commissions for decades? Like that's been the way it's been. Now, where do you stand on the seller offering a portion of the commissions? Just as of right this moment.
As of right this moment, so not taking into consideration tomorrow. Okay. I personally think the National Association of Realtors has done a really good job of protecting realtor interests. Mm-hmm. I think that in prior decades, it probably made sense to pay a buyer's agent to help bring that buyer and attract that buyer in. Mm-hmm. There were points where, hey, you ran newspaper ads on Sundays to see what homes were available. I think now that we have access to the internet and the consumer can see all of these homes essentially the second they hit the market through the MLS, I think it should remove some of those costs associated. I think sellers can reach out directly to buyers and entice them as opposed to having to pay an agent to find a buyer.
And so if it were something like 95% of buyers had a buyer's agent, would that change your mind in any way?
Possibly.
Because people want to be, they want to be represented by an agent. Like they feel like they would benefit from using an agent.
Correct. So I was actually just reading up on this the other day. Historically, when you're listing a home and you're paying the agent that brings the buyer, I think up until the 80s, that was actually a sub agent for the listing agent, and they actually represented the seller's interest.
Well, yes. And so one of the things that I would argue is that this entire settlement is based on not fixing something that happened 30 some odd years ago, or at least the 80s, the 80s.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I totally understand. Have you been playing around with sub agency? It's something that they talk about in license, when you're getting your license a lot, and you don't ever want to end up being nowadays, you don't ever want to end up being a sub agent of the agent, the listing agent. That would be not good. You would not be serving your clients the best by doing that. Which is why because I'm on my own, okay, I always run buyer's agent or seller's agent on my disclosures, because it's just, I'm only representing the buyer or the seller. Now,
right.
The chance that I would have a listing that a buyer in my office would want over 1,000 other people, so small that it's what if something came up like that, I would just disclose to everyone involved, like, hey, I'm the agent on this. But your paperwork also discloses the same thing. So
correct. Yep.
So anyway, can I, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but can I just bring it to a level where I can understand? Because these are some real fine points out in the distance. And so you would not, your point is, there's the internet now. We don't need help finding houses available for sale, and therefore the price paid for that service should go down due to the efficiency of the internet. Is that fair?
Due to the efficiency of the internet, I believe costs should absolutely come down. Okay. I think there are different aspects in which an agent can provide value, but cost should come down.
Yeah,
knowing that we do have more readily available information that we can see at any given time.
Okay, and I don't see anything wrong with that logic. I don't. Now, some people really hate the logic, just so you know.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. So what would you say though? How would you say residential is different than commercial real estate?
Commercial, I have not played around with. So in Tennessee, you can technically do both residential and commercial.
Sure.
They highly encourage, if you're focused on commercial, to work underneath a commercial brokerage.
Yeah.
So in full transparency, I've never done a commercial deal. I have very limited knowledge about how the commercial deals work out, shake out, and what those commission structures look like.
That's exactly fair. I would say that one of the things that I get concerned about with the MLS and access, as I know, I don't want to get into like certain things. It's too long of a discussion. But if I just wanted to mention to you that if the MLS goes away from associations or boards, which it has in some places, if someone gets a monopoly on that information, they will charge more for it. And in the commercial world, there's one MLS provider, basically. The rest of them are so far down that they don't do pricing power or anything. And recently that company managed to get their foot in the door of residential MLS. And so it will be fascinating to see how, and they have some money behind them. So it's very fascinating to see if everything goes to Armageddon, that's where we end up. To me. Now, the other thing is I see all this stuff and I just want to point out that like our prognostications of how the settlement is exactly going to shake out and every single thing is just, to me, impossible and silly.
Oh, completely impossible.
You know, we can think about it. Yeah, we can think about it, but there's so many things we don't know that could happen. One of my concerns is I'm representing the seller in a transaction, okay, and the buyer comes without any representation. Okay. My concern is currently, if that person is coming to me like on a transaction basis, let's just say, so I have no loyalty to that person coming to me, okay, and we write up an offer. And in my disclosure, I've got, hey, the foundation looks a little shaky. You might want to get that inspected. And they don't do that. Okay. So now they go through with this transaction and buy this house. Now I get sued down the road for not helping this person understand, not helping this buyer understand that there could be a problem. I get concerned about that because the part of the fun with commercial and residential real estate is they assume that in commercial real estate, you're sophisticated enough to know what to do. And then they say with residential people, they've never bought a house before. They have no idea what they're doing, and that's not their core business. So you are there to guide them through it. And whether or not it's true, like whether or not it's true that I helped this person to write an offer, not even write it, hell, I don't even know. I guess I hand it to the person and let them fill it out. They can still come at me. Now, understand lawsuits can fly anywhere, right? That you're not going to get out of being sued.
Right.
But it's just strange to me. That's one of those cases where enough lawsuits happen, things change. Okay. And that's why I was saying on the prognostication of what will happen in the future, we don't know, because the law, this is going to change how people do things. There's going to be lawsuits to determine how that really should be in effect. And then it's up to each state, I suppose, individually to, determine how they're going to play the game.
Right.
But I don't like being a guinea pig. And I'll be honest with you, Austin, I've been to my board meetings. There's been like 4 or 5 of them that I've sat there through it. And it's like, the lawyers are saying, well, we don't know how this is going to shake out. And we're not sure about this. It hasn't been tested yet. And we've heard that this is going to happen down the road. And this is from the people that are the quote unquote experts in the room, okay, whose income does not derive upon selling or buying one house. And that's the part that makes it really, really, really gross, in my opinion. My God, you should at least have this stuff figured out for us. We're going to go out there and get smacked.
Oh, yeah. We got the blind leading the blind out here.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And their income doesn't depend on it. It's like, a white shoe law firm in downtown St. Louis is running the show here. And it's like, what? So I just wanted to kind of talk about that. Now, what do you think? Like, I know it sounds stupid, but what do you think? What was the main complaint of Stitzer Burnett, the lawsuit? What what was the problem? Well, in your thought, what was the problem?
Yeah. So it seemed like it had a whole bunch of different layers, and the different layers shifted at different times kind of throughout that process.
I think that's fair.
I think ultimately what it came down to, and again, is my personal opinion, is that sellers were upset that they had to pay a fixed commission somewhere in that 6% range. Things weren't really negotiable. So sellers were having to take on these additional costs of 6% fixed because, hey, realtor A, B, and C all said the same thing. So real estate prices and commissions, we had inflated home values due to inflated high commissions. I think that was the general premise of what they were trying. They wanted commissions to come down. Was the main purpose.
How is that different than if I go to a auto repair shop and they use an automated billing system that is networked throughout the country to determine their hours?
Say that again.
So I go to my local shop, my auto repair shop, and they're like, okay, we're going to fix your car. And so they go to the back end and they use their software that every other automotive manufacturer or auto repair company in the United States uses. And they pull their billing off of that. How is that any different than what we saw here, where they're saying that the prices are too high? When I go to get my car fixed, it's $1,000. And to me, to be honest with you, it's too high. It's expensive.
Okay. Yep. So, I mean, you've got a couple different options in that route, right? You could take it to your private little mechanic shop that may charge you a different amount than if you take it to the dealership. You can get the same problem. You can get the problem fixed, and you could very well have two different costs associated with getting that problem fixed, depending on where you go to take it. I think the problem in the real estate side was, hey, private dealership over here or private mechanic and dealership, it's the same exact cost because I think that's the premise of it, right?
I see what you're saying. Yes. Have you noticed that there's a lawsuit now with apartment price fixing?
I saw that.
Yardi Systems.
Yep.
So they're taking real-time data of apartments all over let's just say they're taking data from all over their own clients that use their software, and they're broadcasting them to the people that use their software to make more informed decisions. Somehow there's an AI component, but honestly, the word AI has become so like buzzword-ish. I don't really know. It doesn't really mean anything to me. But I don't see the difference there, and I don't see any other industry in the United States where a group of people have said, you make too much money, therefore you have to stop. In the whole time, like ever, I've never seen it.
So I've thought about this a lot too.
Sure.
And so one of the larger brokerages that I worked at, and this is no exaggeration, we had agents freshly coming in during, 2000.
Yes, absolutely.
We just had people coming in every single month, excited. They heard they can make 6% on every
100%.
transaction.
Well, I don't know about that, but I don't know how much they would make.
Yeah. It's the only industry that I've seen where you can get somebody who just freshly licensed, just got out of Applebee's, is going to collect the same 3% as a 20-year veteran that's been doing real estate all along. And they can go into a listing appointment with the same 3% that, hey, we're going to capture this. And the percentage that newbie can get it is probably, it shouldn't be 3% regardless of how long you've been in the industry. That tells me that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way that that's collected, regardless of experience, education, or anything.
There's so many different ways to take that. And I don't really want to get too in the weeds on that either. But what you say is one of the most true things. And that is, every day I'm basically unemployed. Every day I go out there. I've been doing this since, 2014. I think I started the brokerage and had my license before that. Every day I'm unemployed unless someone calls me to buy a house or sell a house. There are no if my pipeline runs dry, there's no one there to solve it. There's no one there to fix it.
Yep.
It's a very, very difficult business to stay in business. And as we've discussed in the past, the failure rate is miserable.
It's extremely high. Yep.
and I would put forth to you something that I have not put forth before, and that is, it's expensive to stay in business.
We can agree.
I mean, my God. And so when you talk about lowering costs, okay, well, you know, for the sellers and for the buyers,
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think anyone would ever have a problem with that. What I wonder is, are the inflated costs a result of, wow, it's hard to be in this business and sustain a business model that will work? I'm not trying to be.
That's why we're having the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're figuring it out.
I've never run my brokerage based on like a straight percentage. Like, so if it's a client, like if you got to sell a client house that's like low, they don't typically get the benefit of a house that's priced high. And the reason why is, if I'm going to be driving around for $400, okay, showing 20 houses to this person, I'm going to eat it hard. And it's not that I don't want to help the person or anything like that. It's like, good Lord, I've always felt like you have to give people the same level of service no matter where they're at. Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Follow-up question to that now that you said that.
Sure. So I know how you've set things up, and we don't want to talk about that for the reasons we discussed earlier, but I think that people are going to get hurt on the low end that don't have a lot of money. Now, I think that going forward, it may be proven false. Maybe they're treated better than they ever were before. So I don't know, but I'm just saying, from my experience, let's just put it this way: no one is marketing to people that don't have millions of dollars. You know, as far as real estate agents, you're not marketing to the lowest. Okay. Unfortunately.
Right.
Now, I take on clients, you know, I probably shouldn't, but I just feel like especially those people can get ripped so hard. And I don't want it to happen if I can have anything to do about it. That's how I think about it. So
I agree. Yeah.
Go ahead with your thought.
Yep. So when it comes to, back in 2020, the median sales price in Nashville was about $300,000.
And $300,000 in 2020, did you say?
2020. Yep. Okay. Right about there.
Yeah.
It's now closer to 450, 470.
Yeah.
If we're taking the same 3% back then and today, while my costs did increase to run business, they didn't increase that much. It's a very
let's just say you're using a fixed number.
Yep.
And in my experience, the fixed number wasn't fixed. Okay.
Yep.
Let's go with that. Although, let me just point out one of the most absurd things about the court case. They teach you on day one, you do not pre-fill forms ever.
Correct.
Ever. Why do you not pre-fill out forms? Well, it's a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay. How they managed to show up with pre-filled out forms for the prosecution is absolutely, it just drives me nuts, because I was telling you when we started, the environment through which people are working was not my environment. It never had, because I've always hated it. I never wanted to have anything to do with it. And so what you are saying is happening could indeed be happening, but it wasn't happening with me.
Right.
Nor the people that really, there's some good people in the business, and they don't play these games. And so I just, when you read about what happened, and when you like your view of how things are developed, or what the argument was, dumbed down to basically like sellers thought they were getting ripped. It's like, man, that just wasn't the way things worked for me. So that's kind of where I wanted to leave that as far as the lawsuit itself.
Do you agree with was that the main premise of the lawsuit? Fixed commissions that sellers were having?
You said something when you started that said that the target seemed to be moving, and it didn't seem like there was really anything that made any sense. And I'm in my environment, what has been alleged and what was settled on was not the way not the way I ran my business. And so I
Okay.
mean, did you know how many people hated real estate agents before you got on Twitter?
I did.
Oh, you did? I did not.
Yeah.
I like being a real estate agent. I liked helping people buy and sell homes. I had no idea the hatred and venom towards just, you can hate somebody if they're bad, right? So if a real estate agent took you to the cleaners, you can hate that person 100%. But man, somebody you don't know and never talk to, you just hate them. It's weird.
There is a lot of realtor hate out there. Yep.
Yeah. So I was, but what I would say is, I'm not driving the ship here. I'm not driving the ship at all. What has been alleged has been settled, and I have to work in the environment. I mean, I'm 47 years old. I'm not going to a different career. Yeah. So I have to do what is within my bounds now, which is it going to be that different for me? I always had people sign buyer's agency agreements before we started looking at houses.
So that's
one of the things you're taught.
Change, right?
I mean, that part of it. Now there's definitely part, I know some of your tweets well enough to know that, like, again, we don't necessarily agree on the start of something, but we agree on the end of how it ends up at the end. And that's why I thought it was such a good person to have for my first Deerwood Realty conversation. And thank you. Like, you really made my day, you made my week, and you made my month. So thank you for that.
No, man, this is fun. I was looking forward to this all week.
So I'm going to go into the other thing here and says, like, so what did the settlement do? And I'm just going to list the three things that it was supposed to have done. It says it removed commissions from the MLS.
Yep.
It forced agency agreements to be signed before the realtor shows the house. And it tried to decouple seller paid buyer compensation. And it really made the word commission a dirty word instead of that word, use seller concessions. So that's and I didn't throw you off with this because you got this ahead of time.
Correct.
So,
yeah. Oh yeah.
So I thought we could go over it ahead of time. It removed commissions from the MLS. There's no.
Let's compare if you don't mind. Let's compare what your MLS did with mine. So mine, they are removing commission.
Yeah.
They have the concession field. You got a toggle switch between on and off.
Yeah.
And you can place a dollar amount, not a percentage. And they were very deliberate about not doing a percentage. You could do a dollar amount if you chose to do so.
That's a Tennessee thing that you're showing me, because we have never had a discussion on the two boards that I'm a part of that have ever had anything to do with a percentage-based commission. So that's not to say that I don't know. I don't want to follow the rules. We'll get into that in a minute. But so.
What do you guys do, by the way? So you guys removed commission?
Well, you know what's fascinating to me, and I think we would disagree on this. Whose business is it on seller paid commissions? Whose business is that? Let me just give you an example on a concession. Let's say I go through. I'm representing the buyer, and a sewer lateral is busted in the inspection. And we find it, and we talk to the seller. We're like, "Hey, man. Like, you got to fix this. We'd like to still buy the house. We're all in good faith here, but you got to fix this." And it turns out that seller that fix costs $6,000. Okay. Do I put in that number, or do I put in my commission in addition to that number, or do I just put in $1 because it's really nobody's business what they paid, and you're never going to be able to come up with an accurate view of compensation or concession when you include repairs to the home.
Right. Oh, so I think I'm talking more on the front end now with how it's changed. So, like, before we even got under contract on anything, here are the changes in my MLS. We removed commissions, went to concessions. Correct. Yep. So
we just have a checkbox.
Okay.
Is seller concessions thought of or something? Checkbox.
So too, like in your
there's no numbers. You still have numbers?
We can do dollar amounts, not percentage.
I can't. No.
Yeah, we have the option to. I don't encourage people to, but you can put dollar amounts for concessions offered. So I don't recommend doing that. Yep.
That to me doesn't seem like it's within the spirit of what I was understanding the rules are supposed to be now. But anyway.
Yeah, and that's just what's so different between all of the different states and MLSs.
Well, and let's just mention to people that might be curious. Look, some MLSs are owned by their boards and some aren't, which compounds the problem even more because who did NAR represent the people that had boards that weren't part of their associations? Do they have to follow the same rules?
Who knows?
One fear I have is, can you imagine a situation, a scenario breaking out where you're so much better off not hiring an agent at all on both ends of the deal, that you have these skilled agents literally sitting at home, twiddling their thumbs, wanting to help, but not in the marketplace, there not being an ability to have them. And we get to go do other things like, I don't know, maybe lawn service. I don't know what I'm going to do at my age. I'm kind of out of shape, but it's just like the idea that somehow, I mean, real estate agents have been around forever. I personally don't think they're going away.
I don't either.
But to not have an agent in some of these transactions, based on what I read on Reddit, and it's not to say that all real estate agents are great. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And the whole brokerage model, if you're trying to just get a bunch of agents, is you're just hoping that one person has a big family that needs real estate services. And so, like, one of the biggest guys in St. Louis, his family, he's got like 10 brothers and sisters. Well, damn, by the time his brothers and sisters all buy houses, his cousins buy houses, and his kids buy houses, and their grandkids buy houses, that guy's a millionaire. And it's not because he's a good real estate agent. It's literally because he had a lot of kids. It makes me laugh because it's true. I know the guy.
Historically been true. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the good things out of all of this will be, I think you are going to see more expertise coming out of agents. I think you're going to see the stronger agents coming out of this. And I think you may see some of those that were just really good at chatting with people and saying, oh yeah, come on down, let's do it. I think more expertise will come out.
There are certain brokerages where you go through an interview process. And I'll tell you something, you could make it real easy by just asking one question. That question would be, how many siblings do you have? And if it's over 5, you're in. You're in every time, because just the amount of people you know in your own family will solve that problem for the brokerage, and they can charge their fees. So let's talk about the second issue. It's forced agency agreements to be signed before the realtor shows a house. This was common practice for me in my brokerage since I had it. You have said that you felt like sometimes it got tacked on for, like, at the moment of a deal where people are perhaps enthusiastic, too much so, maybe not exactly reading everything they're signing on a DocuSign form at midnight. Correct. After looking at houses for, the whole entire evening. I think that's fair. I apologize if I said buyer's agency agreement.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm not going to hold you to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. In all honesty, it says there has to be a buyer's agreement to show a house.
Correct. Yeah,
and we both agree. That's not part of it. But I'm just so used to saying I have a buyer's agency agreement with a client. That's where I'm at. And so, do you have any problems with that particular function? The buyer's agreement must be signed before you go show even one house.
So I have mixed emotions about that.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't think that it makes any sense to jam up a consumer in some sort of exclusive agreement where they even have an opportunity to start investigating their home buying experience. That part of it doesn't make any sense. I think there are good workarounds that'll help. But I do genuinely believe it's going to be in the consumer's best interest to negotiate and bring down their costs associated with their home purchase if they have an opportunity to negotiate before they're going to see a home that may be offering a 3% buyer broker compensation. So mixed bag for me.
Since I feel like I had best practices in place before this all started, and I don't feel like I'm the person that they went after in the settlement, I'm I've often wanted to get to know my buyers as people, because when things get nerve-wracking and scary, if you don't know how they're going to react, they will come at you online later in a review that says you're the worst real estate agent ever.
Right.
And I don't need that on my conscience. And I don't know if you've ever worked with engineers before. They're fascinating. They're wired much differently than I am. And so I like to know much more about my clients before I work with them. And to me, I don't see throwing paperwork in front of someone's face to show them a house as a good way to befriend somebody. And I mean befriend somebody by actually I would like to be everybody's friend. I don't have any desire to I don't want to work with assholes. I'm so old. I'm just tired of it. I know I just don't need it in my life. That's from my perspective. Am I being selfish? I don't know. I get real worried.
Well, and I think this is important too for people maybe on the outside looking in. Different brokerages have way different models. It sounds like you're on the family-friendly approach. Like you may help a handful of folks. Absolutely. There are other brokerages that do $1 billion in sales volume, that their entire business is predicated on meeting a client at a home and trying to capture that relationship.
Absolutely. And they have to based on their model, or else they're going to go out of business.
Correct. Yep.
And so, yes, absolutely. And that's to me never been the way real estate should be done. But I mean, they do it.
Right. Yeah. And again, I believe the reason why they have been able to do that is because they've known in some capacity they're going to be able to collect a near standard number.
To me, they are so devoid of any sort of conscience or humanity that it doesn't matter what rules you put in front of them. They will run them through no matter what.
Oh yeah, they'll find a way.
Yeah. So one of the things as a real estate agent, if you ever look around, you'll see every once in a while somebody will hold an open house and get mugged, beaten, crime. Sometimes there'll be a young person get a phone call in the middle of the night. Hey, can you show me this, beat up house in the middle of the ghetto? And they do because they got no money. And then all of a sudden they come back and they're not alive. I don't think the form solves that problem.
It does 100% that problem.
And I do think that realtor safety, just for the record, I despise anyone that hurts someone else at their job.
Oh,
any job, some poor celebs trying to make it go, and man, you hurt them at their job. Like they were just trying to make a living for their family. And that realtor stuff, I feel like it's been I feel either we're reporting it more or something, but I see it more often, and it really makes me sick. And I feel like if you don't know the person well enough, you shouldn't be getting a buyer's agency agreement signed, or buyer's agreement. Sorry.
No, you're
signed, signed up front before you're showing houses. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. 100%. Again, I think there are alternative documents that can be used to help meet clients in the middle.
One of the problems that I'm running into in my local area is the board has approved forms that large brokerages in my market do not agree with. And so rather than a set of documents that everybody can be on the same page with, you've got maybe half the agents are going to be using one document, and then half the agents aren't going to be using that document anytime soon.
Right.
I've got the offer, the purchase contract memorized line by line, because you need to, I think.
Yep.
And so now you're going to have me try and interpret, which real estate agents should never interpret the law. Never. They're not lawyers. But now you're going to send me 4 different agreements. Now, just out of curiosity, if someone, let's say you're listing a property for sale, okay, and you are not paying a seller concession, I'm trying to use the words that we're supposed to be using, and one person comes unrepresented and their price is the exact same price as someone who is represented. One of them is written in crayon on a napkin. The other offer is written to something where you understand
It's the exact same price. What are you doing? How are you advising your client?
Right. Obviously we're looking at seller's net proceeds. We're looking at the terms of the offer, how clean is the offer, what all those look like. Yeah. I mean, if we're going CRAN and not CRAN, it's probably a pretty good indication of which one we should go with, all of the terms.
Yes. Right? Doesn't it seem obvious? But at the same time, I see people making these errors. Let me just one error I see made all the time. Seller takes the highest offer. That person has no chance of ever getting the buyer, because they, number one, aren't going to be able to make it on the financing, and it's not going to appraise, and they have no money backing it up to appraise. So they're toast. But it's still the largest net offer to the seller.
Right. And the terms of the offer are equally important, right? And you have to be able to look at that, evaluate that. If you're a good listing agent, you know what the comps are, and then you're advising on appraisal gaps and anything you potentially could, but you share those risks associated, and ultimately let your seller make the right decision. But
right. In many cases, it's only really a question of who's getting sued. You can think that you've got just because you have a buyer's agent in that deal doesn't mean that you're still going to be able to close that deal. Correct. It might have been better to take the CRAN on the napkin, you know. You just don't know. You just don't know enough. But I don't know about you, but I've always felt like sellers and buyers are coming together, a meeting of the minds, if you will. And there are protections written into the agreements, both on the listing side and on the buyer side, so that, you can work towards a deal and get something done or not done pretty clearly and obviously. So for instance, let's just talk about a buyer protection. I always recommend my buyers get an inspection of the home before they buy it. Sometimes in hot markets, it's probably not going to work. They're probably going to take a different offer. Right. But I would still definitely champion because you get stuck in this situation where it's like, well, I wouldn't have bought the house if I knew this. And it's like, even if you have an inspection, you won't always know everything wrong with the house.
Right.
Or something could literally develop the day that you sold the house. One time I did a closing, and the air conditioner unit sprung a leak the night of the closing and managed to take out the entire ceiling. And I was representing the buyer. And it was just like, the odds of that happening,
They happen.
Yeah. Yep. And so what I would say is, I don't think that any part of this agreement is going to stop anything that's just strange. Like, just because you take out something doesn't mean something else more odd won't come into its place. You have this buyer's agency or buyer's agreement to sign, doesn't mean that something weird won't happen. It's kind of like a guideline right now that we're hoping makes things go smoother.
Yes. Yep.
That's my opinion. All right. So then, do you think that commissions are a bad word?
I want to talk about the decoupling too. Yes, commissions.
This isn't that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the commissions are a bad word.
So I know a little bit about you. I know that you're not doing your stuff for free.
Correct.
Should real estate agents work for free?
No.
Why do people think that that's going to be the default? It's very confusing to me that people think when they think, let me just say this, when they think discount brokerage, they're thinking far differently than even what a discount brokerage can offer.
Right.
Like there's no way what you're thinking and the discount brokerage are thinking are going to be even close to the same. Same thing with the words flat fee. You think flat fee as a buyer or seller might be like $25. The reality is it's probably not going to be $25. And I hope that was within the realm of the antitrust rules. So go ahead. The decoupling.
The decoupling is probably the most interesting part of all of this and how it's going to affect what we're doing, I think.
Yeah. And I understand it on some levels. On other levels, I find it to be ridiculous. And here's how I find it to be ridiculous. Well, I don't know. Did you look at the Michigan lawsuit?
Very briefly.
Okay.
I started to kind of ran out of time this week.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But their argument is fascinating. Their argument is, because you don't produce this information for me, you are of no good to me, and I don't want to be a part of your group.
Now, that for just quick recap,
Yeah.
they don't want NAR anymore, but they do want access to the MLS. Is that
100%?
Okay?
But here's the weird thing that we have to work through is we use MLS interchangeably, multiple listing service, right? But what people would want isn't necessarily an MLS. They want maybe what I would say is a portal of information.
Okay. Yep.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be an MLS. I don't know if you saw me this morning. There was some group that wants to start their own trade association.
Area?
Yeah. And so they use the word MLS, but I don't know that that would be outside of, I don't, by the way, I'm not looking to skirt any rules that have been put in place by anybody above me. Remember, I'm such a small, I'm going to sell maybe 20 houses this year. I'm not the one they're going after. And I don't want to skirt the things, but I do wonder, well, darn, now the National Association of Realtors settled with this group, but they didn't settle with the other group, and they've got their own MLS. So now what are you going to do? You're going to come after them?
Right.
And then it's like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, it's
be chasing them. Yeah. Yep.
It's chasing all this stuff. And I put out a question, and I don't remember if you put on it. I was like, so if you don't sue NAR, okay, like let's say NAR's gone tomorrow, who are you suing in the real estate space? It's like, it's almost convenient that they hit NAR. But as you and I have discussed, and I don't want to get into today, NAR is a fascinating association in general.
They are.
Yeah. So anyway, so decoupling.
So why don't you like the decoupling?
Yeah, like, so I don't want to, I think that this is a huge fight, and I don't think it's fixed tomorrow.
No.
Okay. Just in my own business, people are going to want to I want to do business. When I say I want to do business, I want to help somebody buy a house. I want to help somebody sell a house. I don't have any interest in playing paperwork games like some of these brokerages want to do in my market. So, I'm going to do the business the way I have to do it within the rules, but it's not going to be pretty. And it could be a lot easier if they just went along with the way it's supposed to be done. I don't know if they're sticking their thumb in the eye of NAR or not. I haven't gotten that far, but I just don't like one part of it. I believe that it's okay to offer compensation to an agent on a listing to the buyer's agent. I don't find anything wrong with that. If it's a sub-agency situation, that's a problem. But arm's length transactions, seller A wants to sell his house, seller B wants to sell his house. Seller A says, hey, I'll pay 1%, and I'm using 1% just out of the air. I don't have any idea what the real number is. And seller B wants to use double that, okay? And someone immediately writes an offer on seller B's house over seller A's house. There was an incentive to buy put in by the seller, and I have no problem with that. Where I run into the problem is, if I have an agreement as it's written now with my buyer for a certain percentage, okay, and the seller is offering a higher percentage to get me to go to the property bring my buyer, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not entitled to that money. And I find that to be absolutely wrong, because again, in my view only, the seller is paying something, and this is the pure view, understand the pure. The seller is offering an incentive to get that house sold. That's my view. Whatever number you want to put on it, they're off. If they've got a bag of donuts, okay, and the other house doesn't. I like donuts, and maybe my buyer likes donuts too.
Right.
So that's where I am. So that one particular part is like, look, I get that you want to decouple, okay? But I don't think you're being realistic in the understanding that sometimes the market sucks. Now, you can get into an argument that the financialization of single family homes is a terrible, terrible thing and is destroying communities and destroying the way we do business.
as far as buying and selling homes in the United States, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt. Fine. But in this particular case, like a pure form, seller A wants to offer commission, seller B wants to offer commission or compensation, I apologize, or concessions, then they should be able to do that. And whatever they offer, I should be able to agree to, and we should be able to go fine down the road in a pure form. You think differently?
Think differently. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And so what is your concern on that? Do you still think that seller A and seller B are working now for the buyer agent and not for themselves, trying to sell their house, or working for the listing agent and not trying to sell them house themselves? Where do you have a problem with that particular setup?
I think the biggest problem with that particular setup is that what we've come to learn post 2022 in the marketing your buyers agents marketing their services as free. If the cost is baked in and the seller is effectively increasing the price of the home, offering additional commissions, it's not really helping to serve that buyer. You're increasing the price. Buyer's paying a higher price. So if you're coming along, you're not, as the buyer's agent, and you're collecting that higher fee, actually kind of actively working against your buyer's interest. Because if the seller was willing to accept a certain net proceeds based on paying out X commissions, you could have gotten that house for a little bit less for your buyer.
I understand what you're saying.
Having that conversation and that negotiation with the written agreements up front helps to validate that relationship, the costs associated, to where you're maybe not steering anybody towards house A versus house B, in which your buyer is ultimately bearing the higher. They're eating the cost of that at the end of the day.
I would just say, in the majority of deals I do in the real world, the buyer needs every dime they can get, not just to pay the commission by the seller. They're close. They always buy bigger than that. I understand this is just general nature. It's not me saying you need to buy the most expensive house. That if you actually took away the commission or when you put it on the balance sheet, you're automatically going to kill deals, and they're going to have to buy less of a house. And this is the way I think. Why should they why should they buy less of a house than what they want on the buyer side? How is that doing? How is that helping the buyer? You could buy, let's just say this, you could buy a $325,000 house with a buyer's with a seller commission, or you could buy a $300,000 house without one. The $325,000 house is far and away better than the $300,000 house in my market. Now all of a sudden, now the buyer's buying something that's not the best for them.
Okay. So in your market, it's the cash to close that's holding a majority of the buyers back.
Yes. Even during this historic run, when you have to come out with, $100,000 extra over asking, it's tight. It's tight. Now, what's Nashville doing right now? Are they starting to, have they crested and we're headed on the inventory side now? Or is it still hot?
Active inventory is increasing. Yep.
Okay. Our deals are falling apart, but they're not, the prices are still going up.
Yeah. We set a new all-time high in June of this year. So I came down a little bit, but yeah, we're flat.
It is not your position that the real estate agents are responsible for the increase in prices in metro markets throughout the United States from the period of 2018 to 2022. Correct?
Say that one more time.
It's not your position that real estate agents are primarily responsible for the rise in home prices throughout the years 2018 and 2022.
I don't think realtors 100%, but I can tell you that the rise in home values, the number of times realtors encourage their clients to just waive any and all things come up significantly higher. I do believe that I don't believe it's the sole cause, but I do believe realtors
you don't think it was quote unquote free money? Or a mania caused by a worldwide event?
I think it was a combination of a multiple things.
Yes. I can only counsel my buyers to say, these are the comps. and this house is getting X amount over those comps.
Right.
I would never put the money in for that.
And see, I think that's where we have different models, there are different brokerages, different types. There were 100% agents encouraging consumers to give away everything, their first child.
No. Yes. And I'll tell you, the pressure on those agents to do a deal. Okay. Mm-hmm. You show up, like the longest time I've had a client was 2.5 years. You go out every weekend and show houses for 2.5 years. And in the environment that we were in, and maybe your buyer doesn't want to put in the max offer they can. I mean, it is a slog. You're never going to make a dime off of that one. And it's a disaster. Mm-hmm. If you were in a production, like let's just call it a production brokerage, that person would have been cut free the first week if they didn't put in an offer.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just not how I do business. It never has been. Not ever going to be. But unfortunately, if you did want to buy a house, you did have to put in an offer over asking, and you did have to take off. Now, I think that's going to change. Here's what I think is going to happen. I'll tell you, it's prognostication, but we don't know that it's going to happen. I think the house prices will go down. I think that investors will buy the houses that go down in price. And I think that we will be in a worse position for first-time home buyers, or, gosh, I hate to say it, but an average home price of $350,000, $400,000 is out of the range of most first-time home buyers that are getting out of college. There's no way they're getting in that number of a house. And I think it's actually just going to continue to go higher, unfortunately, until finally somebody says enough. Is this right now when the buyers have said enough? Interest rates have gone down, but again, last month we set records for price. And so, and understand, you are not the perma bull that you find on Twitter. You're not the housing shill that says just buy a house, it's always going to go up.
No, correct. We know, but like you said, nobody knows. We get disclosures here in Middle Tennessee that realtors are in no position to tell people what home values will do, up, down, left, sideways. Nobody knows. So I try to stick to that when I advertise my messages. We could set all-time new highs again next year. They could come down. I'm not going to speculate on that one way or the other. Share the risks, and you let your buyers make educated decisions.
I think 100%. Show them the comps, the right ones, and let the chips fall where they may. I know that sounds stupid, but as I do, I've always believed that the right house finds you over time. Yeah. And also, a lot of times I was seeing over 80% of the people have buyer's remorse on a house. My clients never had buyer's remorse on a house throughout this because they looked and saw 50 other houses and what they were going for in the price. And they were like, look, this house is better than that house, and we're going to get it. They were going to pay this for it. And I'm okay with that because I've seen, you could never have had that happen though if you just went and saw one house from the pictures on a listing site and went out and wrote an offer on that first time out. You'd absolutely have buyer's remorse, in my opinion. That's just one of the things that I never liked about the business. Some people
I'll coach with you for fun. I bought in March of 2022, new construction. Okay.
Yeah.
I was so busy with work. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. I didn't have time. I didn't even see my house.
Uh-huh.
I'd only ever been I live in Lebanon, Tennessee. I'd only ever been there once. I bought my house sight unseen. The first time I ever actually physically saw it in person was the final walk the day before. And,
did your wife have input on the?
I was not married at that time. So it was just me. Bought it. I'm like, this will work. So, but now that it's 2 years later, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I wouldn't have done this.
The thing that there's a bias though. Yeah. You've done so many deals in the past that it's not the same as somebody that just bought their first house.
Correct. Yeah.
And I suspect you have. It might be hard because you were in a new place, but you get an idea of who the new construction builders are in your area that are decent, and the ones to avoid pretty quick if you've been in the business long enough to see the work that they produce. We did actually go out of order, so I just want you to know that. So, this was a question that I had. Due to antitrust laws and our traditional teachings, we aren't allowed to really talk about anything related to the business of real estate. Do you think, in your mind, does this create an environment where agents are not able to voice their concerns with anything anyone says from NAR? And is this unreasonable given the age of social media? So the fact that we're allowed to talk about things on social media, but we have these restrictions,
it seems like to me we're like NAR can tell us what to do, and we can't go and fight it. We can't go out to the airwaves and say, look, you're really screwing us here on this deal. Part of it is are they? Do we know?
Yeah. So wait, okay, I was very intrigued by this question. Yes. So I think we absolutely do have a voice. And
I don't. I think there's probably 15 things that you said that probably aren't allowed right now.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So now I'm like, they're going to take my license. They're going to throw me in a river, which is great because I still have one stepchild living at the house. So they're just going to be mad at me forever. So thanks, Austin.
Yep. You're welcome. Here to help. Yeah. But no, I think we can. So I think we need to. I feel like I do. I mean, knock on wood, NAR hasn't reached out yet to say, hey, you can't do that. So I think we have more of a voice than maybe we think we do. I think a lot of the reason why they maybe ask us to stay quiet about certain things might have been the reason why they've gotten themselves into some trouble.
I do too. Yeah. I think if they would have let the realtors loose, the real people that did real business, and it was the agents on the ground, they are catering to people that do $2 billion worth of business or more.
Correct.
I mean, okay, so we're not even on the same planet. Okay. Right. So if they let all the real estate agents loose, then it would have been fine. But again, the antitrust rules are such that we can't do anything really in that space. And it's like, to me, I feel handcuffed, very, very handcuffed.
Of something that you think you can't do. Let's test the boundaries. What is something?
Oh God. So Austin, we can't talk about commissions. That's definitely it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that they would prefer we not even talk about the case, but they did such a horrible job of defending real estate agents. I just can't. And then I don't know, like, there are rules in place for NAR that make no sense in this day and age.
NAR is an organization that's designed to protect agents.
See, I don't think they are, though. That's why it's a problem. I think that they went out of their way to become some sort of consumer front group, almost anti to the agents anyway, ever since that sub-agency agreement. And so if you're going to represent consumers, go ahead and represent consumers. I don't want to pay your dues and I don't want to have anything to do with it. Okay. I want people that represent real estate agents. And you say, well, that's not great. Don't you care about, I absolutely care about consumers. However, I don't understand why I need to be raked across the coals and just let consumers run wild. I don't even believe that the customer's always right. One of the things that have you seen some of the people on Twitter? Do you really think that they should be involved in making decisions on anything?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right. I mean, the number of times I've seen, somebody on Twitter say, hey, I'm just going to reach out directly to the selling agent so I get the best deal. Yeah, that person probably shouldn't be negotiating their own deal. Correct.
Or, like they saw the pictures on Zillow and now they're going to go buy the house. And they live 3 states away.
Yep.
That seems like a really good idea. So anyway, the National Association of Realtors to me, they have their interests and they served their interest well. It's just not my interest. They didn't care about my interest. They could have run a poll after the settlement and said, hey, do you think we should we keep fighting this? Did they? No. They just sent us more talking points.
Yep.
And then they're like, don't talk during the trial. Well, look at what you did. Like, I wouldn't talk about it either. I'd be so damn embarrassed. And that's my opinion. But anyway, so I do think, like, to me, I've got 0 blanks to give at this point. What's going to happen? I'm going to lose business. I already, my business already has been just hammered by lack of transactions because I can't, everybody and their brothers in the business. So it's like, and we've got historically low transactions here in St. Louis. I don't know about where you are, but it's just like you mentioned there were a number of agents versus the amount of properties actually being sold. I mean, it's just vicious. So, in fact, I got on social media. I was like, you know what? I've been nice. I've been, following all the rules and it's gotten me nothing, absolutely nothing. So, but I do think 98% of the members of NAR aren't being represented in any way and are afraid to
voice any sort of concerns due to the antitrust rules, which ironically, didn't we get hit on? Wasn't this basically antitrust that we got hit on?
The irony.
We've taught all of our lives that we can't say this and can't say that. And so we don't. And then all of a sudden we just get hit by it. So why didn't we talk about it beforehand? Correct. I do think it's chilling though, Austin. I do think there are not many people like you or I that are interested in mentioning things.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. It's funny, just a side story. And again,
yeah, absolutely.
A big group where, we had 10, 15 agents a month. The fact that, and I always used to ask this, how many here know the difference between a real estate agent and a realtor? Nobody knew the difference.
Really?
Because like you said, some people don't talk about things, but I think NAR had such a stranglehold on the industry that that's probably part of the problem. It's like, nobody knew the difference. Wait, hold on. I have to be a realtor. I don't have to be a realtor. Like, it's almost like it's just forced on everybody. You have to do it.
Well, it's so bizarre when you look at like your state laws. Nothing in your state law says you have to be a realtor.
Correct.
Not one thing. You have to have a license to sell property that isn't your own.
Correct.
At least in my state.
That's how they get you. So, somehow how the bylaws work. I don't know if you want to get into the weeds of that, but if one agent in your brokerage is a member of NAR, everybody has to be a member of NAR.
Is that true in Tennessee too?
Yep. If in order to have access to the MLS, you have to be a realtor. So it's like, here are all of the tools. You can be a real estate agent, but you can't advocate for your client unless you have these tools that are hijacked.
100%. There's no way.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I've been, I don't know. I see the thing going straight. I see it going straight to CoStar model where we're paying a stupid amount of money every month to use the MLS that they design. They're going to call it a different name because they already own the company, and then you're just going to pay out the wazoo, and that wasn't any better for anybody.
It's possible. Or there's a world in which real estate commissions, compensation, concessions come down. Buyers and sellers save some money. We get some real estate transaction volume happening. It could all be a very, very good thing. I personally think it will be.
Well, how do you benefit by saying it's going to be awful? You still have to get up every morning and go do the business.
Yeah, 100%. I genuinely think this is going to weed out a lot of the bad apples in our industry. That's my glass half full. I think we're going to see a lot of agents leave. The ones that really want to be here and do a good job will stay. Costs will come down. People will still be able to take care of their families, earn a living, help clients build long-term relationships. I think overall this will be good for the ones that really want to be in it.
Well, I only hope so. I'm not of the. I believe there's nefarious actors in the background that are. I'd just say the listing portals, I think certain brokerage models have such an internet presence that, and they've already flat out said they don't want to be a part of NAR. So I wonder how much those people have sway in what's going on.
So do you think like a realtor.com or a Zillow will become like a nationwide MLS?
Why wouldn't they? And there's one brokerage in particular that pretty much built their business on online search. I don't want to. I'll let you figure out which one it is. Yeah. But why do they need? They don't need the National Association of Realtors now.
They don't. No, it's true.
Zillow jumped into being a broker. I can remember when Zillow jumped into being a brokerage for their fix and flip model that was a spectacular failure and very funny, and I will never forget it the rest of my life. I got an email that said you're not allowed to criticize Zillow because they're a broker now.
Did you really?
Yeah. I said, oh, really? I see how the game is played now.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was.
I haven't forgotten any of those. Getting knock on wood.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't have a problem with I don't want to criticize other brokerages or anything like that. But I think that if there's practices that are ridiculous, I think, and it's on a national level, you should be allowed to make fun of it.
100%.
It's not criticism. It's just fact.
Right. I agree.
So that's where things kind of come into play. So So we talked about this a little bit. So who do you think are the big winners in the lawsuit? Do you think consumers are the big winners here?
I think consumers will be the big winners as soon as some of these agents maybe get out of their own ways a little bit. I mean, we see it on Twitter every day. There are a lot of people still fixated on certain percentages that we're not going to name, that there's no way we're coming off of those. I think they're going to get cut. I mean, Department of Justice has come out and said it. We want real estate transaction fees to be go from somewhere 6%, somewhere closer to 4%. It's
by the way, I think it's totally illegal that they should ever put any caps on anything that people do. I mean, we just kind of disagree on that issue. But I mean, the idea, like I go to my doctor and he looks at my toenail and somehow the insurance is billed for $600 and I was there for 10 minutes. Then you say, well, you're not a doctor, John. You didn't go to school long enough to be a doctor. I have 2 master's degrees. So back off. Yeah. So back off. I don't need to hear about how he sacrificed his life to go to school. I've been in school long enough, so just, back off. That's a stupid argument that really gets under my skin. But it's just so strange to me, the idea that you would like, I'm all for market forces. And maybe it's just because I'm a real estate agent. I know discounted brokerages. I know all those things. I know for sale by owner. There's never there. So say somebody lists their house for sale by themselves. And I call them in the morning and I say, hey, I've got a buyer I'd like to bring by. Are you offering compensation? They say, absolutely not. I'm not offering any compensation. Screw you. I hate you. Go die. Or do something to yourself that's anatomically impossible. I mean, okay, right? Right. Okay. I guess now your
buyer really wants that house. What are you going to do?
And they really aren't going to work with me. So what do? I say, buyer, go over there and negotiate with this person that's already hostile to agents? Like, are we to assume that the buyer or the seller in this case is a beacon of virtue after telling me to go pound sand? Like, we're really going to think that they're going to negotiate on the up and up? You think they're going to fill out the disclosure like on the up and up? You think they're going to even have one? And do you think that the buyer's smart enough to know that you might need a disclosure because, you want some idea of what's going on with the property?
Right.
Is it a meth house? I just see that as being like, I'm maybe one of the only people that says, like, hey, the people I see online, the people I see in real life, sometimes they're not the nicest people in the world. And if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and they'll do it over and over and over again. Yep. And they don't care if they use you up. They don't care at all. So, true. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a jungle out there, and we've been given a task to, have some more tools than the average Joe off the street. And we should probably be compensated for that. And you don't disagree with that. You're going to be compensated. So it's like, that's where we end up.
That's true. Well, we've seen with the mortgage industry back in 2008. I mean, from what I recall, they were making a near 3% on transactions that got cut roughly in half, right?
I don't know. All I know is that
insurance, theirs got cut in like 2014, 2015. So you have a lot of industries that are.
Yeah, but like on the mortgage industry, all they did was take out anybody that like was a small mortgage guy. He couldn't possibly come up with the amount on the bond to hold it. Okay, so it made him align with somebody local or somebody national that could float him. And it really, all it did is turn it into a call center model, which as an agent, I despise the call center model. I'm sure some of the mortgage companies like that. It's like, how am I working with these people are idiots. Like, they're not going to get the deal done on time. They don't even know. I mean, this guy's, maybe he's from India, maybe he's from Czechoslovakia, but he's not getting my documents on time. Like, I'm screwed. And my buyer's going to come at me for that, by the way. They picked the idiot lender, and now I'm going to have to deal with this, which is part of the business, right? You get in these situations, which is why I've always thought that the idea that, like, I'm okay. By the way, the mortgage rules changing. Like, you can't go buy me a dinner. You can't sponsor me on this or that unless you sponsor other things. That's cronyism to me. I don't like that. I would prefer that money be kept to keep prices down for the services.
Yeah. Yep.
No problem. And conflict of interest and stuff like that. But man, if I know a local lender that has good rates and he's up against a national company that has maybe a point better or something stupid, 25 basis points, and I give my buyer both of those names, not in order, just on a piece of paper, I think that I'm doing the right thing. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. There's a reason why, there's a reason why some things are expensive. Now, look, I don't have a mortgage company renting space in my house, right? So I don't have the conflict of interest on those kinds of things. And the joint marketing agreements, I mean, those, I suspect that you've come across those in your larger.
Oh yeah, we've seen them.
And those are vicious to me. Those are,
they're insane. Some of the events, and again, they have consumers, and
this is after everything was fixed.
Correct.
So it's like, good Lord, if this is fixed, I'd like to see broken.
Yeah.
So that was something. So I don't think the consumer, I'll be honest with you, I don't think the consumer is the big winner here.
Who do you think the big winner is?
I think that the listing portals are the big winners here. There's about 4 of them that are like, that have, I'd say 5. There's 5 that have a chance to take every single listing and put it on their site. And whoever sends the most, agents are going to pay for that, especially the ones that are starving, which are the worst ones to buy. That's their business model. I think they're going to win. I think very few people are looking out for agents in general. I think that we're just kind of like churn, like that stuff they feed sharks, like we're that. We're the small fishes that have been chopped up a bunch of times and we're dead, so we don't care. And so that's just kind of how that's kind of how I see it. Let's say you bring down the transaction costs, okay? On a $500,000 house, you bring down the transaction cost $400.
I think it's going to be more than that.
You can, but what I'm just giving you an example on one thing. If you were to do percentages, a point of a percentage in the grand scheme of things is not worth this. The juice isn't worth the squeeze here. To me, you might think,
I do.
We can do different numbers to where it looks really, really good, but you work in a little bit different market than I do.
Correct, right?
And I'm telling you, like, oh great, you just cut $70 off my check. It's like, I was just happy to get the person in the first place. It didn't really, I'm going to be able to keep the lights on for one more month. Thank God. It's comical how they've made it. And then to me, just between you, me, and the 0 people watching, if you broadcast every single, you talk about transparency. I say transparency is used as a weapon. It's as long as I've been alive. If you look at politicians, they'll say sunlight is the best infectant. Well, those people, they're not. There's no sun shining on their deals. Right. So to me, a more transparent thing would be publish every single commission. Do it at the top. Now agents know. Now the general public knows. Now everybody knows. But they're not going to do that. And then you have to ask yourself why.
But who's not going to do that?
Nobody. There's not going to be a listing portal that does it. There's not going to be anybody. Yet, like the argument that I see the argument that I see is that I, John, am picking out, which by the way, isn't the way the business works for me. Maybe it works for you. I have never been able to go to my MLS, click a box to see how much commission there is, and then send my buyer only those houses that have that commission.
No,
it's never happened. I wouldn't even know how to do it. Right. Okay, so now you got rid of that. Great. That was not the basis on which I sent my buyers' houses in the first place.
Correct. That part of the whole argument never made any sense. Like, it never made any sense to me.
Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you telling me that, because it.
And that could just be us. I know that there is ways to look for it. There's no checkbox and sort by function, but you could technically get in there and take a look.
Yes, some 90-year-old woman who has one deal going this year could probably sit there and pick through every single listing and send each one of them to their buyer based on that, which would be dumb, because you can literally, like, here's what's not going to go away. You go to a mortgage and you get a pre-qualification. The lender's going to say, okay, if the seller's paying compensation of X, so now the lender's giving me a rate. I didn't negotiate that. If they pay this is what you can afford. If you have to pay this is what you can afford. On a $400,000 house, oh my God, you better hope that the seller's paying a concession. Because if they're not, now I can only buy a $350,000 house, and those are shit in my neighborhood. I'm just saying those people could afford that. They would be that way. They would think that way.
Okay.
And so now I'm not talking. I've said nothing about the commission. The lenders decided what my commission is. The buyers decided that the lender thinks that's probably okay. And so now I'm out of it. Whereas before, just publish the damn commission if you're going to be that way. And some people the 4 people that watch this later might say, well, John, you advocated earlier that you don't want to show seller commission on the back end, but seller concessions at the end of the deal. And it's like, because you said it's because it's nobody's business. Absolutely right. But on a transparency basis, I'd rather show them everything up front and everything at the end than hide it in the front and then pretend it didn't happen in the end because I've added sewage repair to it. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's. So how do you feel about personally broadcasting your commission rates? Do you have a personal, like, hey, in order to operate my business?
No. There is a discount broker that did that for years and they ate it. And then there was another guy that did it and he ate it, because what you find is the lower your commission, unfortunately, the more volume you have. And when you, this is just my experience and what I've seen, when they have so much volume, they have no systems in place to be able to take it over. And so they hire people that aren't in the business because they have to use a lower number. Like they can't hire like a competent person. And then they bungle the deal all the way through it. And then within a year or two, the reviews are so bad that the guy can't be in business.
About discount brokerages like $500. We're going to put your house in your home on the MLS.
Exactly. And that's, but also I've seen somebody do a percentage too. And the percentage they used was so ridiculous that, and here's the thing, to me, I don't know if this runs afoul, but if you want to cut it on your end, if you're the listing agent, you want to cut it on your end, okay? And then pay what I think I need to show this house and go and show all these houses, that's fine. But what they were doing is they were doing the exact opposite, or they were adding to theirs and cutting even more out. So they were going past your numbers, which is like, well, how is that? How does that help the consumer in any way? It's just greed and horrid. And I just despise it. But no, I would never advertise on rate. I don't think you should. I think you should. I've honestly thought that the most fair thing to do is, what are the likelihoods that somebody's going to buy this house? And what's the rate that I can use that will work in that range? And it's been for every single person. So there's never, I've never had a flat number for everybody because it's against the law, I thought. So I never wanted to do that.
Just thinking about this. Okay. Do you think personally that you provide the same excellent level of service to all of your clients, regardless?
I do. Right? It's a stupid thing to do as a businessman. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And I don't blame, I should not do it. But by golly, if somebody called me and said, hey man, like say it's somebody's, I help their parents and it's now their kid wants to buy their first house and they got nothing.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to be a jerk to that person or not take care of them because of what reason exactly? They entrusted me to help them, you know? And so I'm going to help them. That's just how I'm built. It's not the right business move though.
You don't think so?
Business move, yeah, that move there would be, okay, if I was in a large brokerage, I would shift that person to the newest person in the office and let them screw up the sale. Because what do I care? It's so little money. I don't want to be bothered by it. Is that wrong? Because that's what would happen.
So I think if you, and I'm the same way. Okay. So if I am going to, doesn't matter who I'm working at, 1.2 million, 300,000, I'm going to provide the same level of service. Answer my phone the same way that I would for anybody.
Yeah.
As a baseline, why does that level of service cost different things for different people? When you start running a percentage,
because it's based on the value of the house. That's absolutely right. In fact, what I run into,
so it's not the value of the agent that we're selling; it's the value of the house, 100%. Right?
And the reason why is because you get stuck in this situation. Have you ever thought about auction theory? Mm-hmm. Like when you have an auction, okay, and say like it's an estate sale, but it's an auction. Some items are going to bring more than what they're worth and actually be reasonable. And many items are going to be, it's a quote unquote loss leader.
Okay.
Right? In a grocery store, it's the same thing. You're going to have losses on some and you're going to make money on others. and you don't know who it's going to be to start in the beginning. If you show one house to someone on a deal and they buy, which I always advocate against, you probably made money. If you show that same price level 2 years worth of homes, you've paid them thousands in your time and you can't get it back. You're just an old man.
It's funny you say that. So I have personally, it's never taken somebody 2 years personally to buy a home that they were looking for.
I think you're younger than me, and I think that you come from a different model. Not as a criticism.
Yeah, no.
I think that it's to each their own. But you can use examples that are way outside of the norm, okay, to prove your point.
Like, how many homes do you typically need to what's your average? How many homes do you show somebody before they
I'm like 10, 15, 20 a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many homes do you need to show somebody before they end up purchasing if you were to average it out?
So my whole philosophy is show as many homes as you possibly can to the person, because I want them to be comfortable with what they actually buy ultimately. Yeah. So it would be unusual if I didn't show at least 20 houses to even the most fervent buyer. Plus, in the last 2 years, my God, if you write a contract, you're not going to get it anyway. You might as well start showing the next day, because you're not getting that house because somebody's always going to pay more than you. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
I worked for like a year straight with nothing to show for it. I do that now, but then it was even worse because it's hot outside and I'm kind of trying to lose weight, but not that way, not sweating to death.
Right.
But I do try to stay dressed nice. I'm not like the girl that wears the prom dress to show houses. I'm not that one.
I don't either. Yep. No, I don't either.
So anyway, yeah. I don't know. Like, do you feel like we got somewhere? Did we help the general public understand that just because you've got this massive change in the real estate market, there are still all these issues that haven't really been worked out, and we really don't know what's going to happen?
Yeah, there's still a lot of pieces that we need to fill in. I don't know. I think we probably could have dove in a little bit deeper into some of the changes specifically around, the decoupling and written agreements and how we each think differently and how it will protect or not protect consumers. We could probably do another episode here at some point.
Are you committing to one?
Yeah, I'll commit to one. Yeah. I would love to do another one where we can maybe talk about that just more specifically and all of the details. And maybe share a little bit more about like why I'm going to do, without giving numbers, but how I think it's going to benefit consumers in the way that I would like to do it. I don't want to get in trouble though.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble with that either. And I don't know how you get around that. Like I say, get around it, meaning like how do you do it within the rules? But what you're doing is funny to me because it's really taking a word and turning it on its ear. And the people that are dumb on Twitter that are like, flat fee is going to rule the day, and you can cheerlead for that. Like you, Austin, you'd be like, yeah, flat fee is going to rule the day. And then they find out and they're like,
yeah.
Because they think it's going to be free. And it's fascinating to me.
But I think flat fee often gets associated with like those, like you said, $500, throw it on the MLS.
100%.
There are other ways to do a flat fee that may make way more sense than a $500. Terrible.
There's a rule somewhere that says like, no, I don't want to. I thought there was a rule that said I cannot charge an hourly rate for my services.
I thought I saw that somewhere too. Yep.
Okay. And I don't know if I don't know whose rule that is.
That gets real weird.
Yes. And so like I would work for an hourly fee. I would absolutely do it, but it's not going to be like any number that would be associated with a McDonald's worker. Not against the McDonald's workers, because man, I love McDonald's and I need McDonald's and I feel bad,
Yeah. That's a good question. Good point though. Like, what's the hourly rate for a brand new agent versus a experience versus an expert? Like,
but then it goes back to marketing. Like a white shoe law firm is going to bill for more than like just your regular, just get in there and just fight.
Yep.
And I'd rather have the guy that gets in there and fights, to be honest with you, because the white shoes. So there's that. But
I think we can get into more weeds without getting into trouble.
Okay.
At some point.
This is what I've always wanted. When I started,
this is the transparency that the industry needs. We need to I personally think we need to have more I don't think there's any problem with me advertising what I do and how I do it. My fee is the same across the board. We don't treat anybody differently. It's all the same.
See, that right there is different than mine.
Okay. So. Yeah. See, but that's good. This is allowing consumers to negotiate that there are different options. And
and by the way,
on
on that negotiation, that is the problem. It was never a problem in my deal because we went over it and we're like, this is how this works. And I didn't have to go back and can you imagine? I don't know. I can't say it.
You can't.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine working somewhere where somebody told me a number. I would not respond well to that because I would just stick my thumb right in their eye. Just get away from me.
What do you mean? You were the consumer and somebody told you what their fee was?
No, an office or something over me says, this is what you have to charge.
Oh, yeah. No. And again, maybe this is just us as brokers.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to charge. You do whatever you'd like, but I don't think there's any problem with me saying this is what I charge.
I think their charge was that brokerages around the country had come up with internal numbers that they would only allow their agents to sell a house for. And that therefore was collusion. I think that's what they were thinking.
So, okay, and I mean, we disagree here a little bit too. I think a company internally should be able to charge whatever they like, as long as they're not colluding with others and holding that line or that value.
Yeah, well, there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
Internally, I think that it went.
You can, I think, right? They're like, hey, we are only going to specialize in this. We're going to have this top tier professional photographer do. You can set prices internally, like, hey, we take anything less.
Well, so I work for the brokerage, okay? And so I should be able to set whatever I want to set. And if the brokerage wants to take off X amount of dollars for their transaction fees or something, so be it. But don't tell me what I can charge somebody, because to me that's just as bad as colluding with the entire state area or city area or MLS.
So now, what if that brokerage at that top level offers you and everybody, because they want to defend their reputation of being the top?
100%. Yes. And this happens in the luxury side all the time.
Yeah. We pay somebody $700,000 a year for our CTC.
Absolutely.
Is every agent, every consumer request is answered within 30 seconds. And we just that service. And hey, in order to do that for everybody, we just need to charge internally X.
Mm-hmm.
As long as other brokerages aren't doing it collectively, then I think that's absolutely fine. I don't know.
That's fine. Like I said, I think 99%.
But it's not the way we would do it. But I don't think
99% of the agents are so beholden to their broker that they would be. If the broker told them to run through a brick wall, they would run right through the brick wall. And they don't think. They have no ability to think, so they would just run right through it.
And I think that's a lot of the problems we see even on Twitter, or I guess we call it X. Everyone's just doing what they're told from the top down. That's why I think expertise is going to come out, as a lot of those big brokerages are sweating right now. I still talk to some of them. I was privileged to communicate with multiple of those big brokerages across the U.S. They are sweating right now. They don't know what to do.
Should they be punished for their sins of the past? Is it their time?
Yes.
It's kind of where I'm at. I mean, you made your bed, now lie in it.
Yep, I agree.
So, all right. Well, I do have to go. You have to go. For anybody that would like more information, I will you send me a link of, like, you've got a website somewhere, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll put your Twitter handle in the description as well. And we'll agree to talk about the settlement again, because it's so popular that we need to talk about it again. So we'll set that up for a little bit later, and we'll actually go over. I pulled it up. Didn't have time to talk about it, but we'll do that the next time.
We'll do that, and we'll go through. That'll be fun.
I think it will be, because again, we don't always start off in the same position, but we do end up together somehow at the end.
We do.
It's very fascinating. Yeah, it doesn't happen with many people that I talk to, so I just found that interesting. So, all right, well, with that, I'm going to head on out. Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And catch you down the road.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, well, that was Austin. Like I said, he's a good agent down there in Nashville. I will put his stuff. I got to go to a meeting. I might not get it right away.
But I will put the stuff down in the description below. Hit him up if you're in Nashville. He'd probably help you out. And if you're in St. Louis, you could call me. I'm just saying, I've got time. That I'm going to head out. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.